I am here with Brent Rathgeber, who is the Member of Parliament for Edmonton St. Albert. And Brent, you were rather famously a member of the Conservative caucus and now sit as an independent. Did that change your relationship with the folks back home at all?
Oh, considerably. When I was a member of the caucus, I acted like a good member of the caucus. I defended the government. I submitted pre-written op-ed pieces to the local newspapers. I, defended the government at meetings in my constituency office and when I was speaking in public. Now, after June of 2013, that all changed, and of course, now as an independent, I criticize the government when I think the government deserves to be criticized, and I compliment it when I think it deserves to be complimented. And I'm able to have much more candor with respect to my constituents, more thoughtful, and I would say intelligent debates because I'm not restricted to talking points.
Did you kind of think that was how it was going to be when you came here in the first place?
Well, I was an MLA before I was elected to Parliament, and it was a very different experience. I was certainly mindful of party discipline and caucus acting in some form of team playership and teamsmanship. But the caucus that I served in under Ralph Klein was much more democratic than the caucus that I served in under Prime Minister Harper. We frequently had votes in caucus meetings, and bills had to be vetted positively by caucus subcommittees before they could be introduced to the Alberta legislature. It was much different when I came to Ottawa, where caucus meetings, I think, resemble more of a briefing than they do an actual meeting, where members are not asked to approve or disapprove of imminent legislation. They're just briefed on its contents.
What are the folks preoccupied with these days in St. Albert? What are the issues back home?
See, the biggest issue right now is temporary foreign workers. The Alberta economy tends to be hot. That could change quickly given the price of oil and how much it's slumped in the last couple of months. But currently the Alberta economy is very hot, and both the low-skilled commercial food services and hospitality industries are very short of workers, as are highly skilled industrial contractors who work in Fort McMurray and other places where oil is extracted and recovered. So temporary foreign workers is a major concern for the Alberta business community, and of course the government has taken a position that is not well received, and I would say counterintuitive to the needs of the Alberta economy. And as a non-member of the Conservative Party, I field a lot of those inquiries and a lot of those concerns because I'm able to speak out on behalf of the Alberta business community, where currently the Conservative backbenchers are either muted or defending the government position.
Government stance, Minister Kenney's stance on this is that the program was being abused, was notoriously being abused by some companies, and that they had to restrict access to it. Was there any way to avoid the kind of limited access that is now making things a little hot in Alberta?
Well, certainly, and I mean, this is a government, as you know, that holds itself out as the law and order government, but you don't punish the innocent because of the crimes of the few guilty. Yes, there were bad abuses, there were rampant abuses, but they were very, very isolated, and you can count them on a couple of hands. Serious abuses, and I don't mean to diminish the significance of employers who abuse their temporary foreign workers or break labor codes, but to restrict access for the thousands and thousands, and literally thousands of Alberta employers and in other regions of the country who did play by the rules and did treat their temporary foreign workers respectfully and lawfully. I think that's an overreaction, and quite frankly, the whole government response is a political response. It's not an economic response or an attempt necessarily to clamp down on those who are abusing the program. It's an attempt to shore up political support in regions of the country where the program's not popular.
If there aren't enough people for the jobs that are going wanting, why don't wages simply rise to attract more workers? That's economics 101.
Well, wages do rise, and I mean, if you talk to the local employers, restaurant employees, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, salaries are $14, $15 an hour, which is higher than certainly those employers would pay in other regions of the country. And I mean, they're in low market, high volume businesses, so there are limits. But the better answer to that question is yes. If a restaurant employer, for an example, increases wages, he or she might be able to maintain the employee, but then that employee who was going to leave for a job in Fort McMurray, now that employer in Fort McMurray is short one employee. When you're just, by increasing wages, you're just creating a vacancy in somebody else's human resource pool. The problem is we have a finite supply of labor and we have increased demand, and the only way that we're going to remedy that is to increase the supply of labor, and that's going to require immigration in the long term. But in the medium term, we're going to require temporary foreign workers until we can actually recruit enough immigrants to fill all the positions that are available, certainly in Alberta and in my constituency specifically.
We're less than a year away from a federal election. How do you think that election is going to go in St. Albert?
I think it's going to be competitive. The nomination to replace me is going on as we speak. There will be a candidate by this weekend. It'll be an issues-based contest where I will put forward my theory of why democracy is failing Canadians and why democratic deficits need to be remedied before it's too late. And the Conservative candidate, who no doubt will be a good candidate and will be well-funded, will attempt to persuade the voters that the Harper government has governed well and that they're best served by a seat at the table. My experience, as you know, having a seat at the table did not make me particularly influential. I was not even able to get a private member's bill through committee, even though there was significant support among the caucus members. So I would argue that having an independent member of Parliament who can assess individual initiatives from the government and respond and vote appropriately based on that assessment is a better level of representation, and it's a good question, and I intend to put it to the voters, and they will adjudicate whose vision is more appropriate.
We'll wrap it up there. Brent Rathgeber, thanks very much for talking to me.
Thank you so much, Paul.